Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the AERO People podcast. With me today is Stanley Bugeja. Did I pronounce your name right?
Bugeja.
Bugeja. I'm improving. Let's give me a few tries. Stanley is one of the OGs of Maltese Aviation. He's the managing director of DC Aviation in Malta. He is the president of the Maltese Business Aviation Association, board member of the European Business Aviation Association, is, if I have seen that correctly. Stanley, when do you find time to sleep?
Usually at night, sometime. um, um, I know it sounds like a sound bite, but when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like you're working. And I honestly love. I've been doing this all my life. Obviously, having a family, it does get complicated occasionally. But yeah, you know, if you want something hard enough, usually you find the time. And you know, like I said, I like what I do, and I find the time.
What was first, family or aviation? Chronologically.
Chronologically, the first came aviation. I mean, I've been doing this all my life. For more than 30 years. I will not tell you how old I am, so but for more than 30 years. But my son is 6 years old, so obviously aviation came first, than the family. It is the biggest struggle. Everything else, it's really not a huge effort from my side in terms of, you know, giving the time to the industry. With the family, it does get complicated because if your son, I don't know, has his first show at school, it's the first time that's happened in 30 years that I've missed that I've missed an event. Last year, I did not make it to MIBA in Dubai because it was the first time my son was doing the Christmas pageant. It was exactly on the same, you know, half an hour of my son, and I thought, okay, why am I working at the end of the day as well? So I gave the Dubai Air Show a miss, and it was a successful Dubai Air Show and a successful pageant from my son. So yeah, I mean, we all have to deal with this at some point or the other, but overall, manageable.
Yeah, I agree. At the end of the day, even though we love aviation, it will not push us on the wheelchair when we're old.
No.
To be honest. Stanley, you are native Maltese, so you have experienced the massive growth of the Maltese aviation community and the registry. 9H is basically everywhere. What do you think were the reasons for the Maltese registry and the aviation community here to grow that fast?
Like I said, I've been 30 years in the industry, so I saw it happen. I was actually there when it happened, and I'm obviously biased being Maltese, but I think for a small island, when we put our mind to it, there is nothing that we cannot achieve, which sometimes annoys me a lot, because there's a lot of things that we don't do. But keeping it aviation, back in 2008, the government at the time decided we are very successful in shipping. Why not emulate that success in the aviation industry? And, you know, we all complain about politicians not listening and doing their own thing and whatnot. But at the time, they actually came to the industry and asked, so what do you think would make Malta a successful jurisdiction. And after a lot of discussions and whatnot, we came up with a package, if you like, to start and attract the industry to the island. And at first, Malta was very successful with business aviation. We've seen VistaJet come to Malta, one of the bigger players in the industry and still here. Comlux and so many others. I mean,
basically everyone who has more than 3 planes
is here.
Maltese at least.
Even smaller ones. And I think, again, when the world thinks of Malta, they think tax haven. However, you and me are both in the industry. Maybe the users of the business jets are, rich and powerful and looking for tax havens, but us, the operators, the aircraft operators, the MROs, the service providers, the margins are very slim, like any other aviation industry. Doesn't matter whether you're business or airline. As soon as there's a hiccup, we all suffer. Whether it is an economic downturn, a COVID, whatever it is, it always affects us and badly.
We're the first to suffer, the last to recover.
So the attraction was never tax. Maybe a little bit helped, but I would say, with hands on heart, I would say probably less than 10% than anybody's decision to come and do business from an aviation perspective in Malta. If you ask me, and I think I speak on behalf of most of the members of the Malta Business Aviation Association, the biggest selling point of the island is the jurisdiction efficiency. So for example, we're talking about aircraft. You buy an aircraft like you buy a car, you want to use it as quickly as possible. You don't want to wait 6 months to register the aircraft. Like when you buy the car, if the showroom dealer tells you, yeah, it's your car, here's the paperwork that it's your car, but you can only drive it out of here in 6 months' time. You get very annoyed.
To pay the lease rate.
And in the aviation world, it had started to happen, unless you're a big airline in the West. You buy a business jet. Again, unlike airlines, we tend to have different manufacturers and different types, so you're all the time adding new types on your AOC. And you go and speak to your authority, and they say, I'll give you an appointment to speak in 2 months' time, and then you submit, and then, and it takes a year to start an AOC. And that would almost be good back in 2009, 2010. Where Malta made a difference is that as long as you get your ducks in a row, meaning you're EASA compliant, you have EASA compliant manuals, you have competent personnel, post holders, you had a guarantee that within 3 months you have your AOC. If you're adding an aircraft, within 30 days, you add your aircraft to your AOC. And that was unheard of.
I still have some authorities in my ear that said at least 6 months. At least. That means not faster than 6 months.
Even more than that. Recently, we added a helicopter on the Maltese register, the DC Aviation group. We started the process on a Saturday at 8 o'clock in the evening, talking to the authority. We informed the authority that we would like to add the helicopter. So on Saturday evening, I had reserved the registration, continued the conversation on Sunday. Within a week, that helicopter was registered in Malta, private category, with all the documents, all the paperwork. I will not mention the jurisdiction where we intended to register, but they said, we're going on holiday, it's summer now. The first inspector available to speak to you about your intentions is available in a month and a half time. How do you explain that to an aircraft owner? And purely from a business sense point of view, it's a tool. I need to make money. I cannot wait for you to give me.
I need to use it. Yeah.
I need to use it. So I think the biggest advantage of the jurisdiction, and still is to date, is how efficient and cooperative. And Stefan, you've also spoke to the authorities here, so it's not lip service. They're very responsive, from top to bottom, because sometimes you experience that the top man tells you, yeah, okay, no problem, but so far the Maltese jurisdiction, and I think that's the secret of its success. Otherwise, you wouldn't get also bigger players like Eurowings, like Ryanair, and all these big players that have chosen Malta as their base. Otherwise it wouldn't have worked.
So you see, actually, even if it's an authority, if it's a government officials, they set the tone for the success of a whole industry. When you think about that, because usually they say, we are government officials, we don't care about that. Or I have heard this from someone else. And when you see how much that impacts, how many, must be hundreds of people have now a job in aviation in Malta, how much even tax return that produces just because of a few people. And I still remember the office, which was a barrack back then, which was 5 or 6 people. Those few people set the tone for hundreds afterwards, just because someone thought, let's think about that like an enterprise.
So the business aviation contributes directly $250 million to the Maltese economy. Indirectly, $750 million to the Maltese economy on an annual basis. And why do I say indirectly? Things like the business people. So we get to Malta now approximately 2,500 flights with an average of 3 passengers on board who stay in at a minimum 5-star hotels. The crew, the passengers themselves, or higher, luxury, whatever. But definitely, we're contributing, or we know what our portion is contributing to the Maltese economy. And we have continuity from a jurisdiction perspective. You see this in the news. You probably know it better than I, as you're in mainland Europe, that there's a lot of uncertainty when there's a change in the power structure of a country. Malta, with all the services industries, not just aviation, it's a guarantee that irrespective of who's in power, there's a consensus of how they would like to keep that industry growing. So rarely there are major hiccups. I'm not saying that there won't be changes, but they're insignificant to the overall picture.
Also, when you look at DBA or at least some of the national associations, they're basically there to speak with one voice with the regulators, and more as to hold balance, because otherwise you get overregulated. I don't have that feeling with MBAA, with your association. That this is necessary.
I understand what you're saying. Obviously, like I said, Malta is an EASA jurisdiction. So from an over-regulation point of view, from an EASA perspective, there's little we can do. But I do understand that there are some NEAs where, first of all, the interpretive element of EASA rule, they take possibly a more restrictive approach. Plus, there are some jurisdictions where they add certain regulation, which not necessarily always is aviation related. Some of it could be, like, for example, in terms of employing third country nationals and things like that, where in some jurisdictions it's more complicated than in others. Malta, again, as a whole, works with you, the operator, the MRO, the service provider, to achieve your goals, rather than inventing stuff. So the relationship between the MBAA and the authority on a local perspective is very good. We don't really need to, I don't know, to be the balancing factor. What I think our biggest role in the Maltese environment as an association is more one of, sometimes you take your success for granted, and especially people who maybe were not involved there in it from the beginning, they only know it like that. They think like, it's easy, kind of thing. And what I keep telling everybody, the beauty of business aviation is also a threat. We're highly mobile individuals. We're used to work elsewhere. We all had to, leave mommy's kitchen at a very early stage and go and work on study, whatever, on the other side of the Atlantic, not just in a different country. Yeah. So unless we maintain as a minimum the level of service that our clients got used to, there isn't a high threshold for patience. If it stops working for 6 months, it's probably 3 months too many, and we start seeing people looking at other jurisdictions who are listening. So I think that is definitely one role from a Malta Business Aviation point of view. The other role is, again, we've been there now for quite some time, so sometimes it's a new jurisdiction. So if you come to the island and you don't know where to start,
guide them.
We kind of give them a guide. If you're here and you're a little bit stuck because of our relationship with the authorities, again, by all means, you identify your issue with the authority, whichever authority it is. But if you let the association know, then we voice your concern as well. And like that, the authority knows that, okay, this is not just a Stefan or a Stanley problem, but it's, more people are feeling this and we need to do something about it. And we don't let it go, until they fix the situation. We had some wins, and we have some bones which we're still fighting with, but one recent one is that finally we have business aviation companies can have a handling license at the airport, because before it was only the airline handlers who could handle, and as of this year, March, I believe, there are 3 extra licenses dedicated to business aviation. So now there's dedicated business aviation handling. So I think we our role from a Maltese point of view. It's more of supporting the industry and supporting the local jurisdiction to keep this feel-good factor, I call it, of why you came here in the first place and why you would like to stay here, because it's a win-win for everybody.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. You're one of your multiple roles is that you're the organizer of the MACE conference with the team, of course. Um, so everyone who would like to have a look how business aviation or aviation in Malta generally looks like and how it feels and who the people are, I guess it would be a good point to meet at MACE.
We started it 5 years ago, so this is the 5th MACE. And originally the idea was, everybody talks about Malta, but we talk about Malta at eBase. And again, from a Malta Business Aviation point of view, so for example, something which we've done different is that I believe in 2009, we took the Maltese authorities to eBase. We literally took them to eBase so that they understand what the industry is.
Mm-hmm.
And from 2010 till last year, the authority exhibited at eBase. From 2019, the authority and the association co-exhibit at eBase.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you a little bit, how it works on the island and why it is successful. You have this public-private partnership, if you like. So the idea behind MACE was, we think it's high time to have a Maltese event, first of all, for the foreign entities who are here on a permanent basis. It kind of brings us all together. Secondly, to showcase a little bit the jurisdiction. And it's not an event for the sake of having an event. And I think, Stefan, you know what I'm talking about. And I mean, we're CEOs in our organizations, business people, business-minded, and all of that. And then you go like, who's this guy coming and doing a conference or doing a speech and whatnot? Has nothing to do with the industry. All of a sudden realize that there's 10 guys who are willing to pay 100 euros and voila, there's a conference.
It's a conference from the industry for the industry.
And MACE is a conference from the industry to the industry, supported by the local government, yes. We do showcase a little bit Malta, of course, but it's much more than that. It is a real aviation conference where we speak about any challenges that the industry is facing in its diversity together. New concepts and new ideas. You mentioned Alan. Last year we did something together with Raven. We had Anita Sengupta. I don't know if you know who Anita Sengupta is, but she's a NASA engineer, ex-NASA engineer, who now has her own company called Hydroplane. But she was the designer of the parachute landing system of the first landing on Mars, talking about hydrogen powered batteries for aircraft, even before hydrogen was the talk of the town kind of thing. And this was done in Little Malta, Little MACE kind of. So we had the aviation director from the World Bank in the first MACE. We had people from EASA, people from the European Commission, Brennan from Eamon Brennan from Eurocontrol. This year we have Marilyn Bastin from Eurocontrol. We have Laila Ben Harib as well, she was the first female civil aviation director in the UAE. She was the first female representing the aviation sector at ICAO from the Middle East. it's not about going there and listening to Stanley, listening to the minister, listening to Charles Bach and telling you how great we are. It's really a place where the industry comes together with some taught program. There is a panel discussion. I mean, last year we had the minister sitting in a panel with the industry, basically questioning him, why is the European Commission doing this? And he was more than happy, and not all of it obviously was, let's say, not friendly, obviously it was
Easy
all,
for him.
but not all of it was easy from a politician perspective. But he was willing to sit down in a conference, having a panel discussion openly.
Yeah.
And I promise you it was not staged, not scripted, he didn't know what we were going to say or ask. So it's that kind of event. I think where MACE has also been successful is that it's not huge. So we get about 300 delegates, 75% of which are CEOs, CFOs, COOs, investors, So when you're there and you're doing your networking and exchanging your business card, you're talking to someone who's a decision maker. So yes, I can help you with maintenance. Yes, I can help you with handling. Yes, I can. And what do you think? Shall we put a bit of pressure at MBAA to do something about security at the airport?
Yeah. Whatever, yeah. It's you're close. The way is not long to someone who can say yes.
Mm-hmm. It's. I think that's it. Secrets of for success. I mean, we've been doing 5 years in a row. We actually managed to do it even during COVID online. And funnily enough, it worked. We still got about 260 delegates. So I guess something right we're doing. It's not the worst of places to be in October. Actually, from an organizer point of view, it's the biggest challenge. I remember the first time we did it. I don't know if you remember, Stefan, in 2019. It was at this Grand Hotel Excelsior, and the weather was beautiful. It was October. No, it was November, and the weather was beautiful. It was 27 degrees, whatever. So we're all there in suits, we're excited because it's our first conference. And you see all these Austrians and French and Germans coming from cold wherever. And till 5 minutes before the start of the conference, they're still in their swimming trunks, enjoying the sun and thinking, should I really go and see what this is all about? And you go like, oh no, I want bad weather. Otherwise, I'm not going to get them inside. But
conference in London doesn't have that.
Yeah, exactly. Conference in London doesn't have that problem.
It's a good problem to have, and obviously people are interested to even though with the good weather, to go into the conference and talk to each other. So I think it's also little part of the Maltese success story.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people tell me why you've never left the island. Because I guess I could have worked anywhere.
Obviously, when you get bored, you just find something else to.
But I love the country. It's my place, and I always thought that if I can make the industry, or help, not make, because it's not I did not make it, but help the industry be successful through an MBAA, through a MACE, then selfishly I'm ensuring that I'm successful in my own personal business.
So we take that as our closing words.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Stanley, for having us. Thank you for providing your wonderful facility here in Malta. Thanks for listening and watching. This was our first recording outside of our office. I thank again Stanley.
Thank you.
And yeah, we see each other tomorrow. We see each other next week. Bye.
Bye.